So the media has been all over Nick Saban and what he said. And one of the things that he talked about was the NIL deal. And it wasn't necessarily that he was sitting there saying that players should not get paid to play. What he is saying that it needs to be adjusted. And I think he did a great job outsmarting not only everybody in that room, but everybody in the media. Because there is a specific reason Nick Saban stated what he said and why he said it. And so many people have tried to understand and nitpick and figure it out. And for me, for a long time, I sat there and thought, I love Nick Saban. Nick Saban cares about his players. Nick Saban cares about these humans that he brings on to play football. He cares more about these people as human beings just as much as he cares about them in their career on the football field. But I think Nick Saban needs to apologize. And then I thought about it some more. And I've understood that this is exactly what Nick Saban wanted. Nick Saban doesn't need to apologize. We just need to understand what Nick Saban's trying to do. The NIL. This is year 2 of the NIL. You got guys like Bryce Young for Alabama who came in, now making roughly, reports out there, $3 million. NIL is a great, 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 great thing for college athletes to be able to make money off their name, image, and likeness. It's a way for boosters to try to pay these players and build a team. Now, maybe these boosters become a little more hands-on with these college football teams, and that could be a direction that we potentially head down. But what Nick Saban was doing, calling out Jackson State University, the HBCU school, coached by Deion Sanders, and their number 1 recruit, and then calling out Texas A&M for over the past 4 years have had as many 5-star recruits combined as they did in last year's class, in 2022's class, with 7. And basically stated that they paid every single one of their 5-star recruits, every one of their players. Now, he wasn't saying anybody was doing wrong. He didn't say they were doing it illegally because the terms of the NIL is still unclear. And I've come on this show and stated it before that I love this idea, but there needs to be some kind of structure to it. One of the things that I often thought about is cap it. What can this position group earn, or what can the maximum amount that a player can earn off an NIL deal, stuff like that. Also, one of the things that I thought that maybe they should implement is looking into every single person that receives an NIL deal must take a money management class or whatever kind of class to help them, because these are young kids. Think about it. When you were 18 and 19 years old, if someone handed you $1 million, what are you doing? Are you quite ready to handle that $1 million? You're not. You're not. And we're getting into a stage where it's not about the players anymore. And that's what I don't like. And the fact that Nick Saban called out Texas A&M and Jackson State University, I thought was tremendous. I do not think he needs to apologize. I think he just outsmarted the room. Because while you tried to nitpick and sit there and say, well, Saban said this, so his boosters can pay his players more so he can continue the hot trail that he's always had in recruiting players, that's not the case. Throw that out the window. That's a BS lie. Nick Saban did this because if he knew he went on a rant, that it was just going to look like an old man not adapting to the time, get off my lawn. But it's not Nick Saban saying, get off my lawn. It's Nick Saban saying, you can come on my lawn. Let's have a picnic. Bring a basket. Bring a blanket. Let's do things the right way. If you want to be on my lawn and hang out on my lawn, let's do things the right way. So it's not Nick Saban sitting there screaming from the porch, get off my lawn. This is Nick Saban intuitively knowing that Deion Sanders and Jimbo Fisher are two people that do not let things go. So if Nick Saban just screamed, get off my lawn, I hate N.I.L, or, we need to change the structure of it and people are getting paid, blah, 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 you dismiss it. Old man doing old man things. You dismiss it. But the fact that he called out Jimbo Fisher and Deion Sanders in particular, Deion Sanders, and I'm not saying anything wrong here, Deion Sanders has a loud mouth. He likes to talk a lot. He brought that to his college football game. He brought that to the NFL. And guess what? He's bringing it as a head coach too. Jimbo Fisher, he calls press conferences to rant and rave. And intuitively, Nick Saban knew exactly what he was doing. Exactly what he was doing. Now he backtracked a little bit. But the goal that Nick Saban had in mind, ultimately outsmarting the room, is to not let this get washed away as an old man saying old man things, get off my lawn. No. He particularly pointed out two people that would not let it die. And with Deion Sanders and Jimbo Fisher not letting what Nick Saban said died, there's been more attention around what Nick Saban said. Good, wrong, bad, ugly. Doesn't matter. There's an old adage that says, all press is good press, including bad press. All press is good press. And that's exactly what Nick Saban was able to do with his comments. Now we're sitting here talking about what Nick Saban said. We're talking about what Jimbo Fisher said. We're talking about what Deion Sanders has said. But then we're also saying, you know what? Yeah, maybe he was wrong to call out these guys, but at the end, he was right. There needs to be some kind of structure because this is a slippery slope. We're starting to slide, but where is the bottom? Where's the end of this? Where's the end game? And with any good thing, think about it. With any good thing, with any law, with any good thing that comes into your life, it's not going to be right the first time. When you took a math test, did you get it right the first time? No, you needed to learn. You needed to set rules. You needed to learn the way of math to get a math test right. With laws, with things put in place, with boundaries, with rules, they get tweaked and adjusted all the time. All the time. The N.I.L is a great thing. But there needs to be standards put up around it. There needs to be boundaries put up around it. Or else it's going to turn into a S show. Absolutely, it's going to turn into an S show. And if you don't want an S show, then the NCAA needs to come together and they need to understand what this thing is, where it could potentially head, and how to cut it off. Because you got teams like Texas A&M paying for their players. Guess what? They're in Texas. Big rigs. The oil companies going way up. You've seen the price of barrels. And I'm not going to get too political. But the price of barrels, these guys are making massive amount of money on the price of barrels going up to a tremendous amount. Now these big rig oil companies down south, down in Texas, are like, hey, I'm a graduate of Texas A&M. It's been a while since we've been good. Let's buy some players. And they're doing it legally. There's nothing wrong with it. But we're going to get to a point in time, and Nick Saban's trying to lead us down there to fix things before it gets too late. We're going to get to a point in time where, hey, I'm a booster. I paid for that player. I'm the reason that so and so John Smith chose Texas A&M. Why is he not starting? Why is he not playing? I'm pulling my money and going elsewhere. Good luck getting another John Smith. That's exactly what's going to happen. We are going to create this universe in which people are going to transfer, base their decision on money, and then boosters are going to rule the college football world if we don't do something. And I'd like to say that I'm overreacting, and maybe I am just a smidge, but this is not to be taken lightly. The NIL and where it's been and where it could go, it needs some boundaries. And this is all on the NCAA for not recognizing what was put in front of them and creating boundaries. Because they knew what could potentially come from the court of law. They knew this NIL could potentially rule college football and baseball and basketball and hockey and soccer and softball and women's volleyball, whatever. It could rule these sports. And the NCAA understood that there was going to be a court ruling on the potential name, image, likeness. And yet they did not position themselves very well to handle this off the bat. We are off to a shaky start. There's players in a transfer portal that are demanding $2.5-3 million for a year just to come to their school. The kid from Pitt, one of the best wide receivers that we've probably seen in college football in quite some time, transferred to USC because he wanted more money. The NIL deals, he was trying to rake them in. I'm not faulting him. I am not going to fault Addison Reed. Not going to fault him. Because as a person of interest, I'm going to rake in as much money myself that I can. That's just what I'm going to do. But if we don't set boundaries, if we don't help these kids out, let's be honest. I'm 33 years old. I'm still growing and learning the life of the way and how to manage bills and pay bills and manage my bank account and everything else. Now, I have it a lot more figured out than I did when I was 20, but I'm still trying to figure that out. And I know people out there are 40, 50, 60, still trying to figure it out day by day, week by week, month by month. You're handing these kids $5, $10, $20 million in a course of a 3-year career potentially, if we let it get that way. They're no longer going to be student athletes. They're going to be athletes. And with no salary cap, with no cap on these players, with boosters running wild, legally paying players to play at their college, this could get out of hand. And that's what Nick Saban was stating. It wasn't that Nick Saban no longer has a quote-unquote competitive advantage. Because if you really looked at Nick Saban and did not dislike him for winning a lot, you would understand. He keeps in contact with these players. When they move on to the NFL, he reaches out. He's always there. He will always be there for them. He cares about these guys as people, not just as people that can help him win. And trust me, he does care about winning a lot. And ultimately, at the end of the day, these opinions from Nick Saban came from the goodness of respecting athletes, young minds, young humans looking to make their place in the world. And he just outsmarted the whole room by personally calling out Jimbo Fisher and Deion Sanders, which he never stated they did anything illegal. Anything illegal. He never stated they did anything illegal. He just said this is the path we could potentially go down. And with any great thing that comes into play, things need to be tweaked and changed, just like the NIL. And he called out Jimbo Fisher and Deion Sanders so this story wouldn't die. as an old man yelling, scream, get off my lawn. There was a reason he did what he did. And Nick Saban, my hat's off to you. You outsmarted the room.